Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. My name is Kenneth Kinyanjui. I'm a Senior Startup and Innovation Manager with Urban Geschäftschancen Center, Nairobi. Outside of Austria, we're known as Advantage Austria. In Austria, we have the VKO. So today's topic is top Thema, cybersecurity. And this is a chance for Austrian companies in Kenya within the cybersecurity space. And so we will start. We have about 10 attendees, and this is a good number. I think more and more people will join us on the way. So, super. So I will start. So I will have a five-fold approach where I will talk about Kenya. I welcome you to Kenya and give you some insights at it. Closer look, this is a deep dive in what Kenya is all about. And then we'll have an ICT focus so that we are able to get into cybersecurity. And from there, I will be able to introduce our speaker for today, who is quite knowledgeable on the topic of cybersecurity. So from this, Karibu Kenya. So this is welcome to Kenya in Swahili. So this is the skyline of Nairobi city nowadays, where we have the expressway running through the middle of the city. So Kenya is a country of mesmerizing beauty, world-class national parks, and this is a picture of the elephant, which is a big five. We also have very coastal sandy beaches. This is along the coastline, and we have quite a beautiful country. And out of this, Kenya is quite a huge country, given it's about 582,000 kilometers squared. We have four cities, Nairobi being the capital city, which is at the center of the country. We have Mombasa, which is the second biggest. It's on the coastline of Kenya. This is in the Indian Ocean. And we also have Kisumu, which is the third largest city. And recently we had Nakuru about 2 years ago being made a city. Eldoret is also quite a big town. So it's more or less like a major hub for business. And so the cities are sort of aligned along the A104, which runs from Mombasa all the way across into the different countries in Africa. You can access Uganda, you can access Rwanda, you can access DRC, and so on and so on. And so we'll just get into diving of what Kenya is all about. So as I mentioned, the capital city is Nairobi. The currency we use is the Kenya shilling. The national language is English and Kiswahili. And that's why I told you Karibu Kenya, because Kiswahili is also a national language. The population as of the last census was about 54 million, roughly 54 million Kenyans. The land area, as I mentioned, is about 582,000 square kilometers. And the GDP as of 2022, this is last year, was $264 billion. The exchange rate as an annual average of the euro to the Kenya shilling was 132.1 as of 2022. And so out of the trade volume between Kenya and Austria, we have seen a rise of this since 2010. And the peak was just before COVID in 2019, where this hit about 36 million euros. And COVID really affected this. And so this dropped down in 2020 to 15 and 2021 to $14 million. And in 2022, it has climbed all the way to 19.5. In 2023, we hope that these exports out of Austria will continue to grow and grow further, back to the pre-COVID numbers. And so I will get into where do we get the shilling from Kenya. So we have five major sectors. So this is agriculture, which is the backbone of the country. Construction and infrastructure. So Kenya has undergone quite a lot of construction and infrastructure in the last 10 or so years, and more so to be able to develop the economy and to be able to open up different parts of the country. Manufacturing comes in at a third, where we see that more and more people are trying to rely on made in Kenya. So we use more of made in Kenya, and this is really picking up. The transport sector is also very huge, given that people need to be able to commute, to do business, and to be able to get resources from different places. Tourism still stands as a very huge top earner for us. And when the COVID hit, tourism was really hit, and so our economy was really hit. And these are the 5 major pillars of where we get the shilling. So I will just like to highlight, out of those 5 major sectors where we get our shilling, then we will be able to see what that looks like on year growth. And I think on this slide I really wanted to focus on ICT, because ICT is an enabler of these 5 sectors that we have talked about. So from this graph, you're able to see that an average of ICT growing at 7%, 8%, and during COVID time, it grew all the way with 17% in 2021. And this was really impressive for ICT, which opened up more and more verticals across the different sectors. So our focus being ICT and cybersecurity. So we would want you to be able to see where does ICT fall, or how big is ICT, for you to be able to quantify the market. And the size of ICT was at $650 million as of 2022. And this accounted for 7% of the country's GDP, the gross domestic product. And this is through IT-enabled services. So IT can be broken down into hardware, software, service sales, and basically the ICT market is able to give more figure to the services sales, because Kenya is a service-based economy, and from this contribution of per sector, then you find consumers within this sector of the ICT consumer services contribute about 25%. This is followed closely by communication at 24%. And then there is also government, which takes about 8%. There's banking that takes about 7%. Process and manufacturing takes about 6%. The other verticals take about 25%. And the other verticals is anything else that is not what I mentioned, because ICT in its place in Kenya is an enabler of all the services all sectors that we have, essentially. So for government, we have a lot more drive towards digitizing the services of government. So this you can actually see when you want to visit Kenya and you have e-visas. There's also a lot of government services when it comes to issuing of passports, issuing of IDs, issuing of birth certificates. Any document you will want from the government, you're able to get it online. And this has really pushed ICT to be able to grow. So government is a very great enabler. So the high prospects of growth that government has played a major role to incentivize the economy and the private sector to develop is capacity development. We have a lot of skilled IT labor in Kenya, and this labor is some of the demand we're trying to serve Austria with, and also Europe. Agriculture, just moving from the normal based agriculture to a more tech-enabled agriculture. Infrastructure, retail, there's a lot of e-commerce, there's a lot of technology also in infrastructure. When it comes to energy, when it comes to transport, when it comes to mobility, logistics, education, there's a lot of e-learning, regional business. Kenya is a regional hub for multinationals who are able to serve different sectors of Africa. And so regional business is very attractive when it comes to ICT enabling it. So we will move on to the activities of Austrian businesses. Within the digital space, these are just part examples. So within the digital space, digital payments, we have Vipaso, Vienna Payment Solutions, who are breaking ground with some of the banks in the country to be able to offer tap and pay solutions. Biometric facial recognition. So we have Safaricom, which is the biggest telco within Eastern Africa, use Anyline to be able to identify their customers and to be able to serve them better. There's also digitization of hard copy records. There's secure feature printing. So Inform Lycos was actually a major player within the Kenyan elections, because the security features printing that was on the ballot boxes was from them. Health technology, we have Vamed, who are really big in the region, and also in Kenya. And so these are bad examples that I wanted to highlight, which have a focus of ICT. So I will get into the cyber security trends. So cyber attacks from 2020, a report by the they're called Czech Survey Cyber. They estimated that there were 1,450 cyber attacks per week, and these are set to grow, with most of them targeting governments, finance sectors, and also just personal data. Then there's the emergence of supply chain attacks, given that more and more businesses are moving on to the cloud to be able to serve more and more geographies and more people. So the attacks are also really focusing on these supply chain attacks, and these supply chain attacks can be across any sector, given that you're on the cloud. There's also the remote workforce vulnerabilities, where more and more people are embracing working from different geolocations to be able to collaborate and work together. And so you find the difference in using different connections also poses a very huge risk for the work that they do and the information that they exchange. Then there's also malware disruptions. I'll not get into a lot of this because our speaker will get into a lot of this. Then there's also tech-driven defenses. So these are the solutions towards the cybersecurity threats. Then there's increased attack velocity. Given that AI, we're in the age of AI, automated artificial intelligence, and this artificial intelligence has reached a point that it is now automated. If you just follow trends, there's now auto chat GPT, and the good we see with such artificial intelligence can also be used for bad. So the increased attack velocity is also on a rise, because cybersecurity attacks are also using this automated artificial intelligence. Then there's automotive hacking, which is on the rise, given that there are more autonomous cars, there are more software-driven vehicles, and people can use any point to be able to access the vehicle, to be able to listen in on the users, given that we use a lot of software, use a lot of Bluetooth, we use a lot of connectivity within the cars. There's also a new target for mobile, given that in Kenya, mobile is very big. Almost 70% of the internet use is actually on mobile, whether be it on payments, be it on information exchange, be it on surfing, be it on social media. So the new target is actually mobile. Then there's the data breach, which is a high priority target. And this also comes in from also threats from within. I think giving just a global context, I think this week, last week, just the end of last week, we had a very huge data breach in the world, where a lot of US intelligence files were released. And this also just speaks into where an employee, an internal person can release information to hacking or to cybersecurity threats. And this is very, very, very dangerous to organizations. And I think the awareness of cybersecurity is growing, but also it is not really profound as it is in Europe or in Austria. And so we have a lot more work to do in Kenya. And that's why our speaker today will be talking about more and more of the opportunities that are there for cybersecurity. Our focus in this webinar is more or less on civilian cybersecurity. We also have a business mission on defense security that is coming up in June. I'll be happy to send a link if I get an inquiry about it. But as at now, let's hear it. So for us, you're able to reach, we basically inform. We give you the market knowledge, we give you industry knowledge. We help you also export. So basically, if you're looking for a business partner, looking for financial consulting, we also help you get in contact with international players within the different spaces. We also help you transfer technology. We help you ideate your ideas, and we also help you to do the right sales of any solution that you might have. We are also very networked. We have very local networks that are able to help you in any specific country that you may want. And we basically position Austria as an attractive location. We are a competent partner and we're an innovation driver. And so I would like to, you can reach us actually on any social media platform. So we are Vikao on Twitter. We are Austrian Austria on all the other platforms. And yeah, I would like to pass it on to our guest speaker today, who is Mr. Kenia, who is a principal consultant at CyberGuard Africa. And I hope that you will get to learn more, and I will be expecting more and more questions, which we'll address at the end of the webinar. So welcome, Mr. Kenia. I will pass it on to you. I'll switch off my camera.
Yeah, thank you, Kenneth, for the detailed explanation and also for sharing with us a lot about Kenya. Good afternoon. Hope you're all well. Nice to meet you virtually. I believe this has become the norm. So you're grateful to be able to speak about our beloved country, Kenya, but from the aspect of cybersecurity. So before I get into the meat of today, I'd like to just do a brief introduction about myself. My name is Kevin Kenia. I work with CyberGuard Africa. We've been in the industry for more than 6 years now, and our main focus has been to protect the digital future of our beloved country. And through that, we've managed to really create a lot of value in the market and work with a lot of companies cutting across different sectors. And from the number of years we've been in the game, we've managed to see a lot of benefits and a lot of traction from the industry and the value that cybersecurity can bring, not only in the public sector, but in the private sector. And we're always happy to share our story and to invite like-minded individuals and companies to come and partner with us as we push on towards securing the entire of the East African community. So I'll proceed to what we can have a dialogue about today. So just to give you a brief, I'll be taking you through what cybersecurity looks like in Kenya. Where did it start from? Where are we today? What are we looking into as of today? And what should we expect in the future? I'll also share some trends that we've seen as CyberGuard Africa Research Lab and also from the cyber threats that we managed to mitigate across various companies we've worked with, and what we anticipate as opportunities that exist for companies in Austria to come and partner back here. Good, so quickly go through the agenda for today. So we look at the cyber laws and regulations in Kenya. So this is important because this is what guides us as a country in terms of our cybersecurity practice. So it gives us direction as to what we are supposed to do. Then we look at the current and future infrastructure development. So what is going on in the public sector, in the private sector, what is going to happen in the next few years. Then we look at the public and private sector cybersecurity overview. So how does the security posture look like for the public and the private sector? Then we'll dive into the trends that exist. So what kinds of attacks have we been seeing as CyberGuard? What are the challenges that organizations are facing and opportunities? So since now we have challenges and we have the trends, so how can we combine these both to give us opportunities? And that we talk about collaborations and partnerships. Yeah, so what we have under the cyber laws and regulations in Kenya. So this started off way back in 1998. So we have something which is called the Kenya Information and Communication Act. So this was the first act that was issued by the government, and this served as a basis for Kenya in terms of which direction will we take when it comes to cybersecurity. So the main goal of this act was focusing on information and communication sector. and this was driven by the government. And mostly during this time, e-commerce was a market which was quickly growing. So government had to come into play to make sure that as much as we are growing in the digital space, we also need to have an act which will help people understand in terms of, number one, what do we need to do in terms of protecting this particular digital move. And in case we have issues with cyber security or cyber attacks, how then can we move forward towards investigations and ultimately to prosecute cybercrime offenses? So the Kenya Information and Communication Act, it really acted as a firm foundation for us to start this conversation on cybersecurity for the country. So for each other act which came out after 1998, it was birthed from the Kenya Information and Communications Act. So next we'll get to see additional acts which came. So after, in 2010, we had the Kenya Information and Communications Act. So this one was very specific towards safeguarding customers, protecting customers' rights. So this is where now we saw how the government started to diversify or drill down into how cybersecurity can be done in various facets. So here the government really cared about the consumers, the people who are consuming technology, which for Kenya at that time it was quite prime because that is what the government was depending upon for the digital revolution. So here the main focus was putting in safeguards to protect customers, especially when they are using their mobile phones. That's why they are very specific to telecommunication service providers. And like Kenneth mentioned, we have one big one which is called Safaricom. Probably you've heard about it, which is amongst the biggest telecommunication service providers across Africa. And they've really managed to propel the country in terms of digital awareness and even technology-wise. So we credit Safaricom for actually pushing the country into a different level when it comes to technology. And this is why the government, so it is best fit to create this act, this regulation, for us to start having those conversations of, okay, so how are we going to secure the consumers or the customers of our telecommunication service providers? Then from 2010, we moved over to 2014 in a span of 4 years, which was quite impressive from the government. And they came up with what we call the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2014. So this is when now we saw the solidification of cybersecurity in Kenya, because this was being controlled by the government. So the government decided, okay, we need now to diversify and handle cybersecurity on its own. So this strategy was built on top of an amazing idea the government is still working on, which we call it the Vision 2030. So the Vision 2030, it speaks about digitization of Kenya, or rather placing Kenya as the Silicon Valley in Africa. So one of the key objectives that was defined is to put priorities. As much as we are really looking forward to pushing ICT growth for Kenya and identifying Kenya as a Silicon Valley, then we have to have the same effort in terms of becoming aggressive in protecting the critical infrastructures that will be handling information that the government will be using to serve our countrymen. So the National Cybersecurity, it gave us a glimpse into what the government wants to do from 2014 towards 2030, and this is still what the government is using as it develops Vision 2030. So just to drill down deeper, so in Vision 2030, we have a place called the Konza City. So Konza City will be the Silicon Valley of Kenya, all right? Or even let's call it the Silicon Valley of East Africa. So Konza City is where all the tech companies will be looking forward to being able to operate from there. So it will be like an industrial park, but only focused for each and every technology company. So by that virtue, the government saw it fit to create a cybersecurity strategy that will protect that industrial park for all technology companies that will be doing business in Kenya, and all technology companies that will be serving customers not only in Kenya, but across Africa. So that was also one of the key areas on why the government came up with a national cybersecurity strategy. So after 2014, we moved over to 2018 in a span of, again, of 4 years, which was quite impressive. And here we came up with the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act 2018. So here now we saw the government going granular in terms of addressing cybercrime issues. So the main objective for this act was to provide a channel for the government to be able to handle offenses committed, to handle offenses committed by cyber criminals. So as you can see, these offenses were very, very specific. We are talking about offenses relating to computer systems to enable timely and effective detection, prohibition, prevention, response, investigation, and eventually prosecution. So when you look at all these factors, we have effective detection. So that provides an opportunity for companies to be able to provide that service. We have prohibition, we have prevention, we have response. So all these provide opportunities for companies to be able to come up into the market and provide these particular services, not only to the government, but to every other company which has computer systems and which adheres or rather follows this particular act. So this one applies to each and every organization that provides services to Kenyans, either directly or indirectly. So the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act has actually helped the government to be able to prosecute computer and cybercrime activities. And one example I can give, we had a few years back, we were part of the team that did a forensics and incident response on one of our key government agencies. And through this act, we managed to find the perpetrators, and the perpetrators were arraigned in court. And as we're speaking now, some of them are serving their sentence outside Kenya, because they also took the same activities outside the country. Some are serving their jail time here, and some are serving the jail time outside the country. And this we actually warranted to the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act. Then after 2018, the government, we went to 2019 guidelines on cybersecurity for payment service providers. So this one came from the Central Bank of Kenya. So the Central Bank of Kenya was looking out for banks. It noticed, and this need came after increased attacks targeting banks and also payment service providers. And the Central Government of Kenya saw it fit to create guidelines on what these particular entities should follow to ensure that they have the proper strategies, they have the proper frameworks, they have the proper policies, procedures, and any other thing which is mandatory to help them to mitigate against cyber attacks and be able to reduce the cyber risk. So this is widely followed in the financial sector, or what we define as the fintech sector, whereby the CBK ensures that banks and other entities playing in the payment service space, they have to adhere to this particular guideline that has been given by the Central Bank of Kenya. Then again in 2019, we had an amazing act that came out, which is called the Data Protection Act. So this is the latest act, and as of 2021, the Office of the Data Commissioner was established, and this is what is tying security in Kenya as we speak. So the main objective of the Data Protection Act is to make sure that each and every company that collects information about citizens in Kenya has to protect that information. And the citizens of Kenya, they are referred to as data subjects. So the act is in place to make sure that whatever information the citizens are giving to various companies, that the companies are doing the best they can to protect that information and keep the data subjects in the loop. So as we speak, this office is actually working hand in hand with the public and the private sector. And just recently, we saw the office finding certain companies because they were not compliant to the act. So as of now, one key opportunity or business opportunity in the market is the area of data protection, which I believe will be an emerging and a very solid foundation in cybersecurity in Kenya, because it applies to each and every organization that collects, that processes and stores information about Kenyan citizens, and that primarily applies to 80% of the companies you have here. Good. So all those acts were developed, and the main purpose was to protect the public and the private sector collectively. So what is happening now in Kenya, we have developments both in the public and the private sector, and I'd want us just to go through a few of them for us to understand how is it happening and what kinds of opportunities exist that can be tapped into. So these developments, they started from the Ministry of Information and Communications and the Digital Economy. So this is the ministry tasked with ensuring that the Vision 2030, rather that Konza city or Silicon Valley that Kenya is building, that it is being built in the correct way. And as you can see, we have things which are defined as functions of the state departments. And one of the key functions is data protection policy, regulation of and regulation of personal data services. So this is something which the office is really pushing. The office is already established and it has been funded and they're already at work. The other thing we have being pushed by the government is promotion of ICT innovation and the digital economy. So this we've seen through the Konza city, and we also see the government supporting ICT innovations and also pushing for digitization of government services. So the other thing we're actually foreseeing, or which is under development, is promotion of e-government. So the e-government, the government is currently working on a plan on digitizing majority of its services. So they said in the next 6 months, they'll have quite a number of services being digitized, or rather being brought closer to the customer. So again, that provides an opportunity to be able to bolster in cybersecurity to the government as well. And then we have the policy on automation of government services. So the government is very, very key on automating majority of its services. And there lies a key opportunity on working with the government to be able to secure their journey towards digital transformation. So this ministry is the one which defines how innovation is going to be done, how developments, how digital transformation is going to be done by government. And then once this information is pushed by the ministries, then it gets referred back to the Act. And then once we have the Act supporting these particular initiatives by the government, now we have X number of services which can be used or which can be provisioned to the government to support their adherence to the Act and also to support their objectives or making sure that they achieve what they've set out to do. Yes, so this is how the Vision 2030, sorry, just go back, sorry. This is how, sorry for that. Yes, we're in line. Yeah, so Vision 2030, as you can see, yeah, so the Vision 2030, you can see it supports various objectives of the government, and one of them being deploying world-class infrastructure, facilities, and services. By world-class, it means Kenya is looking into exporting its skill set and also its services to the rest of Africa and to the rest of the world. So the key areas are information and communication technology. We have ICT industry development. So this is something that you're seeing the government pushing to develop the ICT industry. And this is what is being done under the Konza city. And then we have upgrading the ICT capacity. Yes, the government is taking up projects to upgrade its ICT capacity by introducing e-government services. Then we have improving public service delivery using ICT. So this is also part and parcel of the plan of digitizing government services. Then we have upgrading the national ICT infrastructure. So for the government to digitize their services, then they definitely need to do an upgrade to their ICT infrastructure for it to be able to support the objectives that they want to achieve. So cybersecurity is a key aspect for the government to be able to achieve this, because as they move towards digital transformation, they also need to understand what risks are existing and also how can they go about minimizing or rather managing those risks. So that is where cybersecurity services can come in to help support the government in achieving its digital transformation journey according to the Vision 2030. So let's move to the private sector. So what is happening in the private sector? Yeah, so in the private sector in Kenya, we're experiencing the era, what we call the era of digital transformation and innovation. So there's a wide adoption of technology to bring services closer to customers. So if you look into statistics, Kenya is amongst the most funded countries in terms of innovation, being specific to the financial sector, whereby we have a digital transformation move. And we have that digital transformation awakening, whereby people want services closer to them. And Kenya being one of the few countries in Africa with high smartphone penetration, so it becomes easy for these services to be pushed closer to the customers, and these services and the customers to be able to use these services from the comfort of their mobile phones. So there's a huge germination of startups that have changed the innovation and technological ecosystem in Kenya. One big one we can talk about is how M-Pesa has revolutionized how we live day by day. Like in Kenya today, if we cannot do without M-Pesa. So M-Pesa is a platform that Kenyans use to send money to businesses, to pay for items. You can even send money to another individual. You can pay for your goods from wherever you are and from the comfort of your mobile phone. And we've also seen other startups coming up in the healthcare sector. Now Kenyans can buy insurance from their mobile phones, which we've never seen before. Now Kenyans can take loans from mobile phones, which we've never seen before. And now you can imagine that by the fact that Kenya is moving quite fast in terms of digital transformation and innovation, then it also means that Kenya should be able to move as fast when it comes to managing cybersecurity risks. So another opportunity that exists is to help the industry to innovate securely, whereby we make sure that as we transform digitally or as we innovate, that security is embedded from the onset. And that's something that as CyberGuard, we've been pushing to the market and helping organizations to be able to do that successfully. So there we have statistics whereby 58% of startups had presence in this particular county. So where we sit, we have a county called Nairobi, and Nairobi is like the business hub of Kenya. So majority of the startups rather sit within the business hub of the country. And then 51% of the startups focused on key impact sectors from agriculture to energy. So as you can see, the first one was e-commerce and retail. So that's purely transactions, right? And then you have agriculture, then you have education, then you have finance, then we have energy and the rest. So as you can see, all markets are being catered for when it comes to digital transformation and innovation. But now the challenge you have in cybersecurity is not keeping up with the digital transformation and the innovation journey that is happening. So one of the key areas to reference is the Kenya Startup Ecosystem Report. So this report, it gives you a view of where Kenya is today in terms of the digital journey, in terms of how quickly digital transformation is happening in Kenya. But now what worries us is that cybersecurity is not moving at a fast pace compared to how it is happening under digital transformation and innovation. And as CyberGuard, we took that initiative to make sure that as much as we're moving, as much as the industry is moving quick to innovate and quick to transform how things have been done, we also make sure that we help companies to be able to understand that, hey, as much as you're thinking of innovating or rather getting into the digital transformation journey, start thinking about cybersecurity and at an early stage, whereby it will be less costly compared to when you're approaching cybersecurity once your product is off, is into the market. So that's also one of the key opportunities that we explore as CyberGuard. Yes, so let's look at the trends, challenges, and opportunities. And here we'll focus on what we've seen as CyberGuard with our years of experience and also the customers we've worked with. So what we've seen, which has been constant over the years, is the first one is increased ransomware attacks. So this is both at the public and the private sector. Even as we speak, we are currently responding to one ransomware attack in one of the biggest institutions in Kenya. And to give you more context on this, recently there is one government entity which was hit by a ransomware attack specific to the Medusa group. So they hit one of our big public entities, and they managed to exfiltrate data, and the data is available in the dark web. So ransomware has really become a huge pain point in organizations here locally. We've seen examples I can give is Medusa. We've seen Lockbit also being a headache locally. So those two groups primarily are really causing chaos in the public and the private sector. And then we have insider threats. So this is a major pain point for many organizations in Kenya. And from the cases that we've handled as CyberGuard, majority being actually in the private sector, we have heightened cases of insider threats. And to just add more context to what we see here locally, what happens in Kenya is in insider threats is that an employee gets coerced by external parties, or rather external operators, to be able to help them to commit fraud. So what the guys do is they come and they collude with the insider, and they promise the insider that, hey, we'll pay you X amount of money if you help us to gain access to these environments. So once the employee agrees to this particular request by the external operators or attackers, what happens is the attackers, they come and they tell the employee, we'll give you a certain laptop, or we'll give you a USB, probably mostly we've seen is a rubber ducky, or a rubber ducky. And then when the employee probably plugs the computer into the network, or plugs that particular rubber ducky into a machine, then the attackers manage to get an external connection from that machine right to their command and control servers. And from there, the attackers gain access and they start their attack towards exfiltrating money or completely crippling the environment. So one of the key things we've seen is attackers locally, they love working with insider threats, and what they do is they offer huge amounts of money, and their main objective is to usually steal money from this particular company. So this has really, we can mention over 5 companies who have fallen victim for this, and this is a main pain points for organizations locally. Then we've seen phishing attacks. So phishing attacks in Kenya, they are being used as the initial access vector to many organizations, and they tend to be successful. And this is because majority of the organizations we've worked with, they do not have robust or rather solid cybersecurity programs, and that becomes an issue whereby there's lack of capacity to be able to provide that. And that's where the opportunities of providing services comes in, whereby since there is lack of capacity and skill to be able to provide such services, then we need to have companies which can come in and partner to be able to push these services to the organizations and help them manage their risks and minimize their pain points. Then the last one is infrastructure attacks. So this applies to web applications, mobile applications, and networks largely. So it's something that we've seen going way back to attacks like to vulnerabilities like shell shock. So we have companies really struggling to protect the infrastructure, again because of capacity and lack of skill set. So what we've done as CyberGuard, we've made sure that we're bridging the gap by introducing services which are easily understandable to customers, and services which bridge the gap in terms of capacity and also in terms of skills to those particular customers. So this, as CyberGuard, working with many customers, this is what we've seen as constant in terms of cybersecurity trends. And again, we also help companies to be able to neutralize these attacks in good time. So what are the main challenges? So why are these organizations constantly being attacked? So one of the key things are organizations are not in Kenya, they are not well prepared for cyber attacks. So there's rapid digital transformation. Everyone wants to be competitive in the market, so they have to innovate, they have to transform quickly, but security is usually an afterthought. If today you are to do a simple thing like a short and scan on Kenya, you'd be surprised as to how many things you'd identify in terms of vulnerabilities, right? So, and this is plagued because the market has become so competitive. Everyone wants to innovate, everyone wants to remain relevant, but again, cybersecurity is an afterthought. So this provides key opportunities of companies to be able to introduce services that will change this narrative of cybersecurity not being an afterthought, but to be something that will be considered from the onset. So the main challenge is, as much as they want to do this, they do not have capacity. And that's where services come in that can be able to help them to build security from the onset. Then the other one is the organizations not meet the bare minimum in assuring resilience. So organizations that we've worked with, it's very rare to find an organization with a proper cybersecurity strategy or a cybersecurity program in place. So again, this boils down to to capacity. And as CyberGuard, it's something that we do. We help companies come up with security strategies and put solid cybersecurity services in place. And we offer this as a service. And we've seen the benefit of it, whereby organizations can now be able to bring the external capacity internally and be able to ascertain that they are doing the best they can to protect their company. So this is also an interesting thing that we've seen amongst our clients. Then the last one is demand for cybersecurity professionals is growing in Africa as we really move through the digital transformation and innovation journey. The demand for cybersecurity skills is so high. And the challenge is the market cannot satisfy that demand. And not only professional, but they want skilled and experienced professionals. So that even makes it to be tougher to get this particular group of people. So what as CyberGuard we've done, we have a joint task force of the best brilliant minds within Kenya and East Africa, and we came together to be able to address this issue of skills gap. And we've combined our brains, we've combined our experiences to offer services to customers, so as to be able to reduce this demand for cybersecurity services and to be able to help them manage their risks. Then, so where are the opportunities? Where do the opportunities exist? So CyberGuard, as of now, is consistently serve over 30 customers, and these 30 customers are the top tier customers that we're talking about. We have other customers, but our core ones are the top tier. The top tier customers, you have over 30 customers serving them on a daily basis. And what we've purposed is to provide bespoke services, and our main goal is to help these organizations to be resilient against cyber attacks. So when I talk about top tier customers, I'm talking about the biggest banks you'll hear in Kenya, the biggest health companies you'll hear in Kenya, the biggest insurance companies you'll hear in Kenya, the biggest fintech companies you'll hear in Kenya, the biggest startups you'll hear in Kenya. So that's what we mean by our top 30, or rather the 30 customers, the big tier customers that we serve. So as CyberGuard, we have purpose to help them to be cyber resilient, and the kinds of services we offer to them are, number one is vulnerability management, because we realize this is an opportunity which exists because companies are really finding it difficult to be able to manage their vulnerabilities. So what we do is we provide vulnerability management as a service, whereby as CyberGuard, we help customers to continuously manage their vulnerabilities and reduce the attack surface that exists. The other one we do is adversary simulations. We help customers understand if today adversary X is to attack you, or if today Lockbit or Medusa Group was to attack you, would they succeed or not? Then we do penetration testing for these particular customers, just to help them understand their current security posture. If today an attack was launched or targeted towards their company, how successful would it be? Then we provide cybersecurity training. So our mission here is to reduce the cybersecurity skills gap in Africa. And we do this via our custom-made courses, and also leveraging our experience and expertise in these particular markets to give appropriate training that will be of value to our customers and also to other companies. Then we have SOC as a service. So under SOC as a service, we have also sub-services under that, but here we help companies monitor their day-to-day security operations on a 24/7 basis, and to always be a step ahead and to help them defend against attacks at an early stage. Then we have services under governance, risk, and compliance. So here we help companies define their strategies, define their cybersecurity programs, define their cybersecurity organogram for them to have the structure that is required to be able to build or to build cybersecurity in the company. Then we have data protection. Since now the act is alive and acting, so we have services under data protection to help companies understand how they can be able to protect customer data, and how can they be able to assure customers that each and every activity they take in is of the best interest to secure their data. And then finally, we have cloud security audits. So we do conduct audits across ports in Kenya and also within East Africa to our customers, because we've noticed that since digital transformation and innovation is happening quickly, many companies tend to go the cloud way. They are in Kenya, we had a huge reliance on on-premise kind of infrastructures, but now companies are moving quickly to cloud. So we saw that companies need this particular aids, and they actually came to us and to just request us to be able to provide cloud security audits and to help them build security from the start. Other than this, we also have our internal research lab where we are constantly researching about the threats that are being faced within Kenya, within East Africa and Africa, and now using that particular output of the research to create better services to be able to serve our continent. So jointly, what we can do is we can create more value to the East African community, both the public and the private sector. So by this, we mean we can jointly collaborate, we can jointly partner and introduce more services to customers because we've seen the cybersecurity issue is really growing up fast in Africa, and we have our own shortcomings. And the only way to bridge this gap is to introduce services and through partnerships and collaborations to introduce services that can quickly enable companies to move from a crawling stage to a running stage. And by this, we'll be providing services that will enable organizations to stay ahead of cyber attacks. So the best way to win is to help organizations to stay ahead of cyber attacks, and this is by partnering with them and introducing services that will be relevant to their businesses and to help them to stay ahead of cyber attacks and improve their resilience program. So at CyberGuard, we believe in cyber resilience. So this is our core driver in terms of what we offer. We believe that every customer should have the ability to be resilient against cyber attacks and protect their businesses, because that business also plays a huge part in protecting the future of technology within Kenya and within East Africa. So as CyberGuard, we welcome you to collaborating and to partnering with us as we look forward to securing our East African community, and also as we also push forward to securing our African continent. Yep, and with that, I'll say thank you. So I believe we shared the company's profile with the team. Believe we should be able to have it to just read deeper in terms of what we offer, why we offer it, the kinds of customers we work with, and I believe that should help us now have conversations on how we can collaborate and partner to enable us to drive the cybersecurity agenda in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I think I'll just get into the questions right away. So how many employees does CyberGuard Africa have in Kenya?
So in Kenya, sorry?
This is a question from Mr. Clements.
Oh, Mr. Clement. So Mr. Clement, at the moment, you're at 10 employees in Kenya. So that's what we have. But largely, we have also other employees serving in different branches in different countries.
Super. This is a question from a commercial counselor in Southern Africa. So yes. She thanks you for the insightful presentation, but also, as from your experience, do Kenyan companies keep budget for cybersecurity attack prevention, or is it rather emergency assistance during and after an attack?
Okay, good question. Thank you for that. So what we realize is most of the times they do not have a budget because the main reason is they never really think that they would be attacked, right? So most of the times it's usually by need basis, and that's when an attack has happened. That's when the budget is quickly allocated. And so that's also another challenge that we have locally. But to give you comfort, we've been having sessions and inviting these companies to be able to understand then how do you prevent such things from happening? So how do you do things properly? One of the key things we advise is have budgets in place for your cybersecurity initiatives, and the reason why it's important and how that will prevent a lot of headaches and crises when probably an attack happens.
Super. So a question from Mr. Martin. Are you offering your services in Europe as well? And if so, do you have OSCP or OSCE certified people?
Thank you for the question. So we are not offering our services in Europe. So we are focusing on the African markets because that is where we feel there is a lot of a lot of need, let me say, within our continent. Yes, we do have OSCP. We have OSCP certificates, professionals within our company. Also have certified threat hunters. We have certified pen testing engineers. We have certified forensics people. We have certified incident response guys. So we are a collective team, and one of our key things is certification. So we have the correct certifications to be able to conduct our services.
Super. I think those are all the questions. I think, okay. Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I think so thank you so much for the presentation, Mr. Kenia. Thank you so much for all the attendees. We have come to the end of our presentation. These are the contacts that you can get in touch with us, and you can also get in touch with myself. So we would like to have the conversation ongoing. We have this webinar today, which is also going to be a prelude or a precursor to more and more conversations, and we hope that we'll continue the conversation. We are also trying to focus on defense security. So if you are looking at defense security, this is the military police. We have a trade mission coming up in June. Kindly look out for the invitation. We can also send you a customized invitation if you reach out, but also we will send this out using the mailing list. We are so pleased to have you on board. I hope we did answer all your questions accurately and you are satisfied. Yes, so we have come to the end of our presentation. I who was moderating, I'm Kenneth Kinyanjui. So you can reach me through the contact available on the screen, and you can also write to nairobi@vikao.at. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and we hope to keep the conversation going. Cybersecurity and ICT is a growing field in Kenya, and so also in East Africa, and so we would like Austrian companies to plug in to be able to continue just carrying the conversation, introducing services to the market. And CyberGuard Africa is quite a great partner to help you understand the space. So you can reach out directly also to them. We will be happy to be put in copy in the conversations just to be able to guide these conversations. But yes, we are at the top of the hour. And if there are no other questions, we would like to thank you so much for availing your time and also for the questions. And we hope that we were able to address any opportunities or any concerns that you might have. Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from you.